Welcome, everybody. Today we will be talking about how to get started with progressive web apps. And thank you so much, Sania, for the beautiful introduction. But I just wanted to put it across where I am. My name is Deepa Subramanian. I'm a developer at Adobe. Like Sania said, I enjoy building front-end and full-stack applications. I'm also the organizer in GDG San Jose. Recently, I joined Women Who Code Front-End as an evangelist. Very glad to be here. I've been in this forum before to speak last year, so I really enjoyed. So that's why I'm back here. So those of you who are still, waiting to join something, please do go ahead, join this beautiful forum here. Time to time, I also write blogs, and you can connect with me in LinkedIn. I'll be sharing the social media links at the end too, and every slide would have my Twitter handle on the top right. Okay, so before we get started today, what do I want you to know, right? So if you are a web developer already, you know how to build websites, you know vanilla JavaScript, right? You know how to create promises in JavaScript, you know how callback works, you know what is a call stack, what is a scope. Those things are the basic stuff that I would expect you to know during the session. And you also know that there is, you should be aware of client side and server side rendering. What are they, right? So with that said, we'll start off with, this is the agenda for today. It's going to be a packed session, so please bear with me, stay with me, but you will get a lot of information for sure. Let's start off with a background on mobile. And then we'll deep dive into progressive web apps, what is it, and where are we right now. And we'll also talk about the pillars of progressive web apps. We'll be mainly focusing on app manifest and service workers. And we'll finally have a demo. And also to note that I would, oh, sorry, can you? Oh, I think it got, how do I do this? Hang on. Sorry, so I was trying to, okay. And we'll be breaking out for questions in between because there's a lot of information. So I want to make sure that people guess what are the concepts that I will be talking. And just to give you a stats, right? Half the human population in the planet uses smartphones today, right? And of the half the population, on an average in 2020, the number of applications that people had in their phones were about 40. And there were 87 of these users who spent mostly their time on mobile applications, okay? So this is the stats that I want to start with for the mobile side. And if it works, okay. It is according to this data that I picked up from online, it is found that the worldwide mobile app revenue is going to be projected to be around $935 US. Can you believe it? $935 billion. So what does an app development cost for mobile, right? If you take a simple application, it would cost anywhere between $40,000 to $100,000. A medium complex application would cost about $170,000 at the max, and a complex app would be costing you anywhere between $250,000, and there are some apps that go up to $500K too. So there is a markup as how the money is distributed across different departments too, right? This is just to give you an overlay or an idea of where mobile is right now today. Okay, so we talked about all these things, right? If you ever want to develop a mobile application, right, with a native framework such as, Android or iOS, if you're using a native framework, then you should know these languages, either Java or Kotlin, Swift or Objective-C. And if you don't want to do that, you could use it with your existing, you can also use other frameworks such as React Native. You could use with your JavaScript knowledge today. You can create mobile apps too with React Native. library. And you can also, if you want to try to develop using Flutter, which is a platform by Google, you could still go ahead and do it, but you need to learn another language, which is Dart, right? And you could also use Xamarin too to develop mobile application. So with that said, it should, when you create these applications, you should make sure that it's in both the platforms. It's supported by both the platforms. You're able to cover all those weird, devices too, device-specific applications too. So this is going to be a lot more challenging. And finally, if God forbid everything goes on well, you publish the App Store. And usually App Store and Google Play Store, they would look into your app, make sure that if it works according to their specifications, and say that, okay, it's finally good to go, right? So this is how mobile development works today. So just to give you a background, I'm not going to play this video, but I'll be sharing this later. Steve Jobs, regarding the progressive web apps, I want to give you a background. Steve Jobs was the first person to present this concept during the iPhone release in 2007. What Jobs said was, whatever knowledge that the developers currently have using standard web technologies, you could make applications. So
full Safari engine is inside of iPhone. It gives us capability more than it's ever been on a mobile device. So, you're right. Amazing. Web 2.0 look exactly and behave exactly like me. You have to integrate perfectly with iPhone services. You can make a call, send an email, look up Google Women. After you write them, you have instant distribution. You don't have to worry about distribution. Put them on your internet feed. But I really need to update the code on your own server. And having to go through this really complex update. And the sure. The same type of security review that comes after you, Amazon is done. Really on the outcome. Don't compromise. What? Definitely, that's two codes to do. You don't. You know how to light up using the most modern website.
And this was the vision, or this was the concept that Jobs presented in 2007. Today, it has become a reality, right? So what if you, as a web developer, what if you can build your mobile web application using your existing JavaScript knowledge, right? What you can do is you can make all these things possible. You can make sure that your application works offline. It also sends push notification. It is installable on your mobile device. And you can, when you install it, it's also added in the home screen. I'll be showing a demo in a very short time. So with your existing JavaScript knowledge, you can develop mobile applications using progressive web apps. So now comes the definition. According to MDM, right, web applications that are built using specific technologies and standard patterns, and which allows you to take the advantage of both web and native app features. You can build application which can be progressive, which can be a progressive web app. And in 2015, after I think 8 years after Jobs, conceptualized this idea, in 2015, the Chrome team presented this progressive web app, which can be downloaded onto the home screen of a mobile device from a browser, right? Basically, Google brought Jobs' concept to reality. So with that said, progressive web apps are websites that you can build and deliver the same experience as native apps, and you do not have to go through the hassle of getting it approved from the App Store or the Google Play Store. Besides, it also cuts down a lot of costs for you. So here is an example of Tinder application. On the leftmost, if you see, there's a web application of Tinder, which has a address bar at the top. And in the middle, you have the native application, mobile application, which does not have the address bar. On the top, on the right extreme, if you see, it's a progressive web apps, which has an address bar. And at the bottom, it also says that, hey, you want to add Tinder to the home screen, right? So this is an example of a progressive web app. You can open the app in the mobile browser, and it allows you to install. We'll be seeing a demo in a bit. So what are the other companies that uses progressive web apps other than Tinder, right? You have Flipkart, Starbucks, Pinterest, Twitter, Tobago, a lot more to it. I could stick on, I just picked up a few and I pasted it here. So there's a lot of companies which have started adopting a progressive web app. That's, they also saw some success stories to it. So Twitter saw an increased data consumption, and their application saw increased conversion. Users were engaged, and it improved the performance, and it also increased revenue of their application too, right? So before we move on to progressive web apps, is there any questions so far? Sania, do you have any questions for me? If not, we can move ahead. Okay, we are going 1, 2, let's see, I'm not too sure. If there is any questions, can you read out for me, Sania? Okay, so far no questions, so I'm moving ahead. So progressive web apps are built and it is enhanced using modern APIs to deliver enhanced capabilities, reliability, and installability by reaching everyone, anyone, on any device with only one single code base. You write the code, but using your existing JavaScript knowledge, and then progressive web app can make it a mobile application. So that's the beauty of it, and you can enhance your web application to make this as a progressive web app, right? So what happens when you make them as a progressive web app? The reach is becoming as equal to a native application. So what are the popular front-end frameworks that supports progressive web apps? You can use it with Angular, you can use it with React library, you can use it with Vue, Iconic, and then Polymer too. So what are the core requirements? When you say your app is progressive web app, what it should do basically, right? It should be fast. It should start fast, and it should also stay fast. It should support offline, and it should be installable on your mobile device, and it should be responsive, right? And it should be working on any browsers. Progressive web apps generally work on all the major browsers, but there are some browsers out there which does not support too. There is a way to check out whether it supports progressive web apps or not, which I'll be talking in a moment. So take an example. I know here is an app architecture. We all know that when we approach building an application, there is some client-side rendering, and there are some parts of it you would render it in the client, and some part of it you would fetch it up from the server, right? Here we are using a concept called app shell, which is a mix of both server-side and client-side. I'll be talking about app shell in a moment, and you can also approach it using a stream API. So what is an app shell, right? It is a concept which is concerned with loading your minimal UI and the content as soon as possible. So whenever you're trying to get anything, how do you do this? So you can cache them, right? You can cache them so that it will be available offline. And whenever you're visiting, right, it loads the minimal app contents right away for you. How does it do it, right? We'll talk about it in a moment. So this is how it's been done. There are major pillars for progressive web apps. service workers are the heartbeat for progressive web apps. If you do not, it's a file, which I'll be showing in a moment. It's a JavaScript file, which is the heartbeat of progressive web apps. If you do not have this service worker, then your app is not a progressive web app, okay? So it should be secure. It should be following this HTTPS protocol, right? And we'll be talking about app manifest and then responsive design. In this particular session, I'll be focusing more on the service worker and app manifest, because when you know how to create a web application, you know how to create it in a secure manner. And responsive design is something, a domain of its own. It'll take another session for me to do the whole thing. So if you know how to create responsive web design, websites, then you could definitely do this. However, we'll be talking about service workers and app manifest today. So here's an example of a progressive web app folder structure. And inside the source, you would have JavaScript files. And if you see, there's a HTML file, and at the root of it, you have app manifest and service worker, right? Note that service worker is in the root level, and then it is a JavaScript file. Now, moving on to app manifest. What is an app manifest, right? The web app manifest is a JSON file. It tells you how your progressive web app should behave and look when it's installed, either in a desktop or in a mobile device. Note that you can create progressive web apps for standalone applications in the desktop too. So it's not only for mobile. You can develop apps for your desktops too, right? And it includes certain information. You would be able to say, hey, what would my app contain, right? It should, there are some icons in it, and it should look like this. And you can have description, you can have a theme color, background color, whatever you want to okay, can you hear me? I'm so sorry, I think it was. So this is how the app manifest would look like, okay? So any questions so far before we move on to service workers?
We can open up the space for questions, Deepa. Yes, we do have. First question will be, do you see the future of mobile app with PWA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to show you a demo. We'll just see a demo at the end. Just wait for it till the end. I want you to understand the concepts first.
Totally. All right. We'll save this question for the end. And well, we have an anonymous attendee asking the slide will be shared. I don't think that this slide will be, well, okay. Well,
I will share it at the end. I will send you I put it on a website. So you can, I'll share it at the end for sure. But the demo will not be, you have to stay for the demo till the end of the session. Okay, yeah. The demo is not there in that.
Yeah, but you can stay, and we will be sharing the recording of this session as soon as it gets uploaded to our YouTube channel. We'll share the link in both from Deepa's slides and the recording as soon as it's posted in the Slack channel. So I just posted the link invite. Please join, because again, it's where the party is running.
Yeah, I will send the slides for sure. Okay. Before the session ends, I will post it too. So yeah, now let's move on to service workers, right? So as you know, JavaScript here runs on a single main thread, And if you are a web developer, you know that how how it is tightly coupled with HTML pages. So hang on, if it works. Okay. So this is how in a general website, how it works as a single thread, right? So we know that JavaScript file interacts with your DOM, and then it renders, and then it just shows it in the website. In Service Worker, if you see here, Service Worker does not talk to the DOM, right? That does not have access to the DOM, but they run this background process. It runs a background process even if your app is closed. It listens to events, and whenever there is a change in the event, it makes basically does something when there is an event change, right? So understand that Service Worker runs on separate thread. So what are the features? So I talked about event list. It will listen for events. So it will listen to fetch API requests. It can also load offline content. It can do background sync. That's what makes it possible for the applications to show some content. Remember the app shell that I talked about, where you have to load some minimal UI content. So it's being done by a background process that's along with the Service Worker. We will see the code snippet in a moment. And it should also be capable of enabling push notification. Like how if you're trying to access a file, you're trying to upload a photo to Twitter, right? And it asks you, hey, can I access your Photos application, right? It asks you permissions. So those things are all handled by Service Workers. So first, like I said, when you have to have your application as a progressive web apps, you need to know whether it supports Service Worker. There is a website called caniuse.com, and if you check what are the browsers, it supports Service Workers. So make sure that to check if your target browsers support Service Workers. So this is the very important part of this whole talk. Understand how Service Workers work, right? This is the life cycle of it. First off, to start off, you have to register the Service Worker. You write something inside of your app.js where it'll register Service Worker. Once you register the Service Worker, it'll start to install events. Then it'll activate the Service Worker, and then it'll start listening. How does this whole background process start? It's by registering the Service Worker first, right? When you reload the page, it'll see whether there is any changes to the events. If not, it'll just display whatever is there already, right? So when there is a change in the Service Worker, right, we'll see all these demo in a moment. Whenever there is a change in the Service Worker, and if you're offline, right, it'll go install the event and wait. So once you come back online and reopen it, it will then activate those events and start showing the whatever content that you changed, whatever events that had changed, and it'll start listening again. So this is how offline works, and this is, in general, Service Workers work. So this is how I would register. If you go and see, there is a, so we are registering the Service Worker. It looks for this particular file from the root directory. So it just says, oh yeah, there is a service worker.js, right? And if it is there, then it'll console, in the console, it just prints out Service Worker is registered. Otherwise it won't. The first time when you try to do it, make sure that you should be able to, you should see it in the console. If not, try to reload the page again. It should work. So when I did that, on the left, if you see in the console, it had registered. And then when you click on and see, there's a lot of information inside the console. So I'll be showing you all of this demo at the end. So I talked about how do you install and activate an event, right? Inside your Service Worker, these are the events that you will be listening for. You would have, listen to an install event, and then you're also listening to an Activate event, right? So when you do that, it's just showing up on the console. So these are callback functions. And if I'm pretty sure that you should be aware of all these JavaScript, whatever it is. I don't get it at the top of my head right now. So you should know that how does callback works, and then you're using add event listener here to listen to all the events that you're wanting to. And make sure you can also use fetch here, which I will show you in a moment. So once you have registered, right? If you go into the application folder, application tab inside of your console in the dev tools, right? You would see service worker like this. It will show you the source, and it will also show you the status. And note that at the top, you also have these 3 checkboxes. You can simulate offline. You can also update it on reload. We'll check out for how offline works during the demo. So now, I told you that Chrome has a specific way to find out whether your application is valid progressive web app, right? So you can do this using, there is a Chrome extension called Lighthouse, where you can run an audit to validate on specific aspects to see if your application is a progressive web app or not. We will also see this in the demo. So if you see this, I ran this for the demo application, and initially it did fail because I had some mistakes. So it said that, hey, you have not used a specific icon for Apple. So I had to fix it and then make sure that the theme color is set. So it runs your audit and it gives you basically the report. And it will also give you, the base to fix it if you make any mistakes. Okay. So now we talked about all these things on the web, but how do you run this thing on an Android device, right? If you want to install it on an Android device, okay, on a real device, I connected an Android device. I think it was OnePlus or something. I don't personally use an Android phone, but then you can connect an Android device and make sure inside of your laptop or your browser, desktop browser, go to this settings called as, Chrome Inspect Devices. And if you go there inside the DevTools, you can see Discover USB devices, and you have to click on port forwarding and make sure that you're pointing to your forwarding your local host, so that whenever you type in the host name inside of your mobile device, it will show up on your mobile device too. We will be going through this demo. I'll play a video. I recorded this and I'll be showing it on an emulator. Same concept, but in an emulator, you don't need to do port forwarding, but you would use a different way to work it out. There are similar setups for an iPhone device using Safari, which you could try it on your own. So here's an example that I tried to do. So what I did was I went to this local host, 5500 was my port number, and the address I just stuck those numbers in there. And then if you see, there are 3 dots on the top right on an Android device. If you click on that, it'll show you add to home screen. We'll see that in a moment. And once you do that, it shows at the bottom saying that, hey, you want to install this app, right? You want to add it to the home screen. And when I clicked on add, it just showed it on my home screen. And finally, if you see, it looks exactly same as a native app without the address bar. And it looks, as a mobile app. So you do not have to go through this whole process of building these things, with so much of money and so much of cost that needs to be paid for the store, for any store for that matter, right? It's super easy. So we talked about this. How do we do it in an Android device? Now, how do we support this? If you are offline, right? How do we cache? We don't want this dinosaur on our screen that will be showing up when we are trying to simulate this offline. If you see, I've checked offline here, and we don't want this with the dyno here, right? It looks awful. So you can cache certain things. So before we go to the caching strategies, is there any questions so far?
I'm seeing here in the chat, how is PWA different from browser bookmarks?
It doesn't have, browser bookmarks. Cool. I'm not too sure whether you can add as a bookmark, because we are trying to make sure that we are trying to build a native app, right? We are building an application for mobile. How would you bookmark in a mobile app? I'm not too sure of that. But of course, if you're using a regular desktop, you can bookmark it as a regular website, right? These are all basically websites. Does that answer your question? I don't think you can bookmark it in a mobile app. Pick up your phone and see if you can. Maybe there are shortcuts that you can add it or move your application around, but I'm not too sure how do you bookmark it.
Yeah, my guess is that since it's web-based. The question was about what will be the difference between bookmarking and having the icon, launch icon, rather than having the icon for ticking into the app.
Basic, if you're trying to install it from the App Store, can you bookmark it? Is it a possibility? No, right? I don't think I can bookmark it, but I can categorize it. If you, I can put it, group them as inside of a specific set of applications. You can do that. And there are, when you press hold on a mobile application, it just shows you those mini, whatever that options are. Those are supported by PWA too, just to let you know. There are APIs to do that. Does it make sense? Shortcut APIs, is that what it is? There's some ways to do that. But I don't think you can bookmark it.
Makes sense. And one more question. Well, we have a lot of questions. Can you host a PWA on a normal web host like any other web app?
Yes, you could.
Yeah. And one more question. Can a web app handle real-time data or store data for offline use?
Yes, you can do that. That's what we are going to be talking about, the caching strategies. Like I said, I'm going to be showing you client-side caching strategy, but there is also ways to do it from the server side too. There is some index DB that you can do that, but it's too advanced for the session, but you can do it.
Sweet, and that's one of the wonders of a PWA.
Okay.
All right,
so,
we can continue.
Okay, cool. We're almost there. So there are different ways of caching, right? We are there's a static caching, dynamic caching, and then we can also you can also read out to a fallback page when you're offline. Today, we'll be talking on the static caching one. And like I said, no service worker listens to events. So caching can be done using fetch events. And once you do it, the fetch event handler can tap the request and decide what to do. Basically, it'll show you whatever content is already cached, it'll show up on the page. Instead of having the dinosaur or saying, hey, you don't have connection, you can still show something. Even today, if you go offline and see Twitter, I'm not sure with the real mobile app right now, but if you're offline, you can still see some content instead of seeing a blank page. So static caching, right? How do we do? Here we are caching using static cache approach. If you see inside this variable assets, I am caching all the information, whatever I want to have it, whatever assets I want to show when the user goes offline. So if you know it's an array, we are caching the index.html, the JavaScript files, the styling files, and we are also in fact caching the Google fonts too, right? Once you do this, so inside the event listener, first you need to make sure that you install, whenever the app launches, you need to make sure that you are using this cache here. So if you see, we are using, it'll wait, and then if there is a cache, it'll pick up everything from the, if you see at the on the last line, it says cache all, add all, and it get everything that is there in the assets that we had put in, right? Okay, now once you install it, how do you fetch it? It basically sees if there is any anything that has changed. If you're offline, it'll request from the fetch. Otherwise, it'll request from the, it'll basically match what is your state, and if you're offline, it just fetches the content. So once you do that, inside of your browser, you can see in the application tab, if you go ahead and see this, inside cache, you have this site static, that's the name that we gave, and it caches all the assets here that we stored in the assets variable, right? Okay, cool. Now, so just to give you the list of checklists when you say that your website is progressive web apps, right? It should provide offline experience, like I said before, and it should be accessible by everyone. It should be accessible, it should support all the browsers, and it should be capable, reliable, and basically whatever Jobs said, conceptualized, it should be there on a progressive web apps. And when we talk about input types, like I said, progressive web apps is not only for mobile, you can also create standalone applications too. But that said, it should be, when we use it, it should be supporting all the input types. For example, mouse, keyboard. If you're using an iPad, it should, it should support Apple Pencil, right? And your mobile device, of course, touch. And permission requests. So like I said before, if you want to access your photos, and if you want to access your location, immediately it should prompt for saying that, hey, we require permissions. So all of these things should be supported, and you should make sure that when you are developing a progressive web apps, you should keep this in mind. So what are the benefits, right? So you have single code base, it's faster, cheaper, you do not need to learn different programming languages. It does not take space in your mobile phone, and you do not need to download from the App Store. You do not have to wait for somebody to approve your application, right? This is exactly very similar to how you would do web releases, which is faster iteration, right? So as a web developer now, you can also create mobile applications. So now we are going to be moving to the main thing for this whole session. We'll do a demo, and there's going to be 3 of them, right? First, we will go with we'll see how does this progressive web app look like on a web app. And then we'll see the dev tools with a console and stuff. We'll see how service worker gets registered, how to fire up events, and how static caching works. And we'll also run the audit for this page. So if we have time, we can run it on an Android emulator, but if it takes too much time, I also have a video. So let's give me a minute. Can you see my screen still? Can you see my VS Code?
Yes, we can see it.
Hang on, I'm trying to navigate through different displays here. So if you see on the left, this is the project structure that I have. And here is my styling that I picked up from materials here, materialize. And then I have images here. I have my JavaScript files here. And on outside of everything, you have this index.html manifest. This is what we were talking about. So this is a JSON file. Here I'm displaying it as standalone, but you can also do it as a mobile one, right? I've added theme color, background color, and the orientation is portrait primarily, but you can also change it if you are working on a mobile device, if you need support for both portrait and landscape. And you can also give all this information as what is the icon, where does it have to pick it up from, what is the size, etc. when you have to show it on the screen when you go offline, or if you are still online too. So here is a service worker. I have added the same thing, the cache here for what I showed. Here's the event. Let's see a demo here. Just give me a minute if I can still. Okay, cool. I don't know, where is my Chrome tab window? Just give me 1 minute. Okay, here we go. So as you guys can see, let's go. This is going to be pretty fast, so pay attention. I've already gone ahead and registered this. Come on. Jeez. Okay, cool. This page is not super responsive. So here it shows it as, here is my service worker, which I already have registered here. And it says service worker registered, right? So if I go back to VS Code here, and I'm trying to say, okay, I'm trying to console log. Note that if I go here, let's not do this for once. Let's do this. And if I go ahead, let me try to do this because it's going to be super fast. I also have this video on the, let me try to, okay. If I save this file and make sure that it's right away, it's going to show you right away here, right? If it does not, then we have to restart this thing. Okay, I think it was too quick. Let's do this. Sometimes it does not right away show it, so let's stop this port and then let's start it again, right? And if I do F12, hopefully it shows. No, it does not. Let's go offline first and then do this. It should show, but it's pretty fast. Go to service worker. I'm trying to change these things, right? I just added a couple. Okay. So we are offline here. So right now it's not showing this, it's waiting. If you see here, it's activated. It'll show you here activated and it's running. But if we kind of do this, it should show waiting as well. Yeah. There's my HTML file. Stop this first and open it with the live server. Okay. I have so many apps open here. Let me close all of those. Okay. Okay. So it's an offline. It's not showing up, right? Now, okay, let's go offline. Let's do this. It's not showing up. So if we go and save this in the service workers, okay, let's do this fetched one, right? Save this. So now it's not showing up anything. If I take this offline and then do this, hopefully it does. No, it does not. Yeah. I kept this app open overnight. Let me try to start it over. Come on. It should work. I don't know why it's not working. Maybe it's cached. Let's do this. Let's open it up in a different port and try to see. Come on. It's not waste time in here. Okay. Oh, I know what I did. Hang on. You have to go console. I'm so sorry, guys. You have to go here and see it's been showing here all the while. So if I go here, it says fetched here, that we enable. And if we go ahead and say, okay, right? This is fetched, and if I save this, it's going to show it right away too. Let's see if it does. Let's refresh this. Now it's showing everything. Did you see it for a moment? It was showing up. If I do this, if it is very fast. See, it just showed you with the thumbs up, and then it showed all the messages. But if you do something, if I go change it with the offline, it will not show it. Once you come back online, it will definitely show. And if you go to, where is this thing? Let's see this stuff. Where's the application? So it's all cached here. I can remove it and I can show this too, but for the sake of time, I'm not doing that. So this is how you, even caching works. And like I said, this is how you would do port forwarding, right? So I did this with a real device. And let's run an audit of this page. So if I go to Lighthouse, I've selected Progressive Web App, and I've also selected, the performance. And if I analyze this page, let's go ahead and see what does it do. Sometimes you will see an error at the bottom here. Refresh it, it'll be fine. Okay. Okay, cool. It's all done. See, now it's showing no internet, right? If I go here, it happens when you try to do this. So you have to restart the server again. Stop this port the second time, hopefully it does. Open this live server. Okay, I'm going to be stopping this. Let's run this now here. It should be faster this time. See, it is super fast. So if it happens and if it's taking too much time, disconnect your server, then restart it and then run it. It should hopefully show. See, now it's all picking it up, right? And it'll show that, okay, your application performance is 99%. That's okay. It's still good. And if you go ahead and see this, it is showing off, oh, this is a valid and this is a, this is optimized for PWA. This is how you can check to make sure that your application is a progressive web app. And I did show the port forwarding. Let's see the demo for the, what is this thing? Can you see my screen? Okay, now let's see the demo for the Android application. So here is it. I'm typing in 10.0.2. And then I'm putting the port number, which is 5500. And if you see that here on the top right, these three ellipses at the top, if I click onto that, now you see that the app in the mobile as well as on the web looks the same. And if you click on those, it says add to home screen. Then when you add it, it adds automatically. You have to make sure that you set up your Android Studio. I'm not running it because if you see, it takes time to pick it up. So I'm struggling with the Android device because I don't use it. Okay, here it is. So here's the application. And when I click onto this, it opens up the application and it, boom, it looks like exactly like a mobile device, mobile application. Right? Alrighty. So with that, what is the future of progressive web apps? They say that progressive web apps could and should eventually replace most of the native apps, which is a good thing. And yeah, it is projected that, it could be the future, right? And to summarize, we talked about a lot about progressive web apps. It should be fast, it should be reliable, it should be installable, it should be capable, and it should be engaging, right? Or all the these are the properties of progressive web apps we talked about, service worker and app manifest. But something that you have to know or you can figure out is the HTTPS one and the progressive design. So what is the next steps that you would take? Start with progressive design. We talked about 3 caching strategies, right? I showed you static, there's dynamic. You can also do a fallback. It's a lot of tutorials. And if you're interested, there is a website that I found. There's a lot of code labs. You can step-by-step work on it, and you can see how you can develop applications. Do geolocation. There's a lot of APIs that are available now, and you can see how you can also use service worker automation. There's something called as service workbox. Is an extension from Google. You can use that to automate service worker. And the chance, the possibilities are limitless, but start today. So once again, my name is Deepa. You can connect with me in all these forums. And thank you so much for your time.